So, hello and welcome to Have You Raised a Ticket? Have you raised a ticket, Darren?
I generally do. Notice that was a question more than an answer.
It's a podcast where we get local government people talking about digital data and technology. Basically, we're talking about ourselves. Isn't that right, Darren?
Oh, I'm fairly certain it's your favourite subject, Joe.
No, it actually is my favourite subject because that's what I spend most of my days doing, is getting people to talk about themselves. So actually, you're not wrong there. Darren Mann, who are you?
My name's Darren Mann. I've been in the IT industry for 36 years. I know, I don't look it, do I? And I've worked in IT across multiple sectors, across private and public sector. At the moment, I'm a director for digital data and technology services in a London council.
A very high-profile one.
Oh, thank you. You're so kind. And we deliver ranges of services from just the technology through to change and digital transformation, where we need to understand what the organisation needs to deliver for our residents. And we want to enable that through whatever digital platforms are available to us. Who are you, Joe Cumper?
Who am I to sit here and ask questions? Well, I'm a question asker, a headhunter. Again, like you, over 30 years within technology, media, telecommunications, data, e-commerce, whatever you want to call it. Gone from the Y2K, is it going to fail and all the lights go out at midnight, over to the AI revolution that we are experiencing now. Worked again, like you, across public and private sector, putting in the movers and shakers, as well as the doers and the makers and the people who actually deliver for our residents. And we go into large public sector organisations who are going through some sort of organisation change and help them with that. The delivery of the new target operating model for digital data and technology and the talent that will go with it, as well as delivering cultural change as well. So, yeah. We hang around local authorities on a regular basis. Oh, authorities, I hate that word. We are not authorities of anything. We serve our residents. We are public sector servants. Everything we do is for the residents.
You make us sound scary that we just hang around councils.
We kind of do. Could be quite enlightening places, actually.
And definitely eye-opening. You learn a lot about what the needs of citizens are. Sometimes good, sometimes not so good.
But I think what strikes me as something quite important is that most people, their main interaction with government, if we want to call it government, is in the public sector, is with local government. So we see every night, the news from Westminster and what's happening, and the bashing at the dispatch boxes, when we have Prime Minister's question time. And I think people are driven by that. And Westminster politics absolutely influences what's happening. But actually, the majority of our population, their interaction with government in an everyday life is someone picking up your bin, picking up your rubbish, giving you a parking ticket, helping your child go to school, get the best education they can. It is all local authority orientated, and we are delivering for the residents their best lives, and that's what we want to achieve as servants. So yeah. So in our first episode, we've got two stars of the show. Rehana Ramesh, who is the DDAT, which is Digital Data and Technology Director, and she's the DDAT for Hackney, and Atika Mohammed, who is the DDAT for Luton. And both councils are going through amazing changes and transformations at this moment in time, and I don't think people realise how much we collaborate and work together and really do the best for our residents. So I wanted to get them in, and both of them have the most amazing, unshakable commitments to their residents. So let's welcome our guests, Rehana Ramesh and Atika Mohammed. So, ladies, the question will be, who are you? Where are you from? Elevator pitch of how you got to where you're at. And we'll start with you, Lady Ramesh. Over to you. Tell us about yourself.
Okay. Rehana Ramesh. I'm the Director for ICT, Digital and Customer Services at London Borough of Hackney, with a good 26 years of local government experience. How I got here? I think I got here because I've had great mentors, great coaches in my life. I think I've worked with some really amazing, inspiring people who have taught me a lot. I've worked with amazing teams who have every day inspired me, challenged me, stretched me. And I think personally, just the support of the family, took the time to reflect. And I think I'm actually a very nosy person by trait. So I like to get involved in everything. I like to know everything, which kind of gave me the energy to learn. And I think I'm here because of that.
Excellent.
Thank you, Rehana. And we're going to do our best to challenge you. No prizes are involved, but thank you for joining us.
Atika Mohammed.
Hello, I'm Atika Mohammed. I am the Director for Digital Data and Technology at Luton Council. So how did I get here? So many years, 21 years, a little bit behind Rehana in the local government world. Did step out for a couple of years, 2 years in the middle, but decided that my heart was in local government. I'm clearly quite a sucker for punishment, to want to come back to the workload as well. But it's very similar to Rehana. I think having that combination of home support and work support, great people to work with, learn from, teams that do amazing stuff day in, day out, residents that challenge us in terms of what we need to deliver. And I wouldn't say I'm quite nosy, but I am. If someone tells me I can't do something, I will make a point of getting it done.
You will.
So, that's probably how I got here.
So to begin with, we're going to look at local government and the DDAT, which stands for Digital Data and Technology Landscape. So current challenges, cyber, am I allowed to say that? Ethics, money, capabilities, opportunities. So let's start with you, Rehana, if you will forgive us for putting you on the spot. But what's happening now in local government in terms of digital data and technology?
I think transformation has always been the word within local government. I don't think it's a new word. It's been there for a while. I think some of the challenges you mentioned are still real challenges. There's a massive budget gap. We've got to make sure that we're delivering more value for money. Our resources are coming down. It is becoming leaner and leaner. I think most of the local authorities are cut to the bones already. I think the technology landscape is evolving. So we are kind of stuck in this weird realm where we are still with all of these legacy systems, these big decisions that we made in the past, and we're trying to make them work. But we've also got our vision on the horizon, like, we know all of this great stuff is coming, and how do we bring that in? And keeping that balance within the organization, that we need to run fast and change, and it's constantly evolving, but we've got some serious real life challenges and problems to tackle. Housing, social care, it's typical in every single local authority. And for some reason, ICT, call it digital transformation, call it systems, whatever, seems to be the silver bullet along with AI. Let's not talk about AI, that it's going to give us tons of savings, it's going to improve everything. Actually, it won't. What gives us savings is brave decisions. What improves experience is, once again, educating, taking people through that journey, and being honest with our residents, our businesses, our children who live and study within the local authority. I think that's what gives us all of these things. But I think it's still trying to get that balance right. And also you need to remember you've got a massive workforce to take that through. The culture change, let's not underestimate. And I think that's a huge challenge within local government. Local authorities typically are used to a certain way of making decisions, of doing things. And now we want to change all of that. That's going to take a bit of time. And skills gap, that's a big thing. And just the archaic governance processes is also a challenge. Don't want to say too much and put everything in, but hopefully that gives you a flavor of what I believe is the real challenge out there. I actually said this in one of the titles. I'm speaking at an event, but I spoke, what I want to talk about is digital transformation is actually a people problem. It's not a technology problem. It's just camouflaged in this whole technology. We need to bring AI. Actually, it's people. We need to get the people to use all of that stuff really well. And that's where the real challenge is.
Couldn't agree more with all of that. And I think just on the last point that you were saying there, Rehana, my teams always hear me say the technology is nothing without the people. If people aren't using it, if people don't know how to use it, if people don't want to use it, there's no point in us spending all that money and implementing great, technology if it's not going to be adopted at the end of the day. So I think there's a real kind of a shift and a focus to include that. Certainly that's what we're doing in Luton. I think the digital transformation sort of phrase is really good as well. It has been around for a long time. My personal view is that, transformation is the norm. It's BAU. We, as a local authority, we are always needing to transform. We're always needing to evolve. So it shouldn't be about kind of these big, huge kind of town-bound transformation periods that we're going through. But I'm really keen that, organisations have the culture and the skills to just be able to continually evolve. So that's the other thing, I think. But, it doesn't shift us away from the technology side of stuff. Technology is part of the enabler, but the people side of it can be, kind of left out a little bit when we think about the technology as being that silver bullet, as Rehana has said. I think, obviously, as Rehana said, everyone wants AI, everyone thinks it's going to solve all their problems. But, there's a big, I think, as local government, we have to be so careful about where we put our money and where we put our investment, and use correctly, use ethically, used in the right places to solve the problems, by making sure that we understand what the problems are first and not just kind of bringing it in for the sake of bringing it in. There is a place for it and there is value for it. But, there's also conversations now happening in the industry that AI isn't the silver bullet. Quantum computing is going to come in and trump AI. So actually, if you put all your eggs into the AI basket, you're very soon going to have to take them back out again. So I think we've got to sort of have an eye to the future, and what's coming down the line before we sort of jump to all the shiny stuff, as well.
But you've got some pretty darn cool things going on at Luton. Is it something like a £1.7 billion investment? You're perfectly positioned between Cambridge, London, and Oxford. I mean, there's a lot going on at Luton at the moment, isn't there?
There's a huge amount going on in Luton. I'm absolutely passionate. I've come from working in London boroughs, which have their own kind of pros and cons and have their. But I've never felt a place like Luton. The community feel, the way that the council is connected to the community is not something I've ever felt before, and the real passion for turning it around. Luton does, let's be open. Luton does have a reputation which isn't brilliant, but I think the reality of what you see on a day-to-day basis in Luton is so far from that. And as you say, the investment that's coming in, being positioned between London, between the Oxford-Cambridge arc, being close to the universal kind of development in Bedford, having Luton Airport, the expansion that is going on over there. We've got a new football stadium. Let's not talk about the football team and their performance, but we have got a new football stadium coming in. There is so much going on in terms of the development and the people. I think it comes back to the people of Luton. There is so much potential there that is untapped. Almost, every day I come across someone, whether it's in work or whether it's kind of, locally out and about, who will be doing something, in terms of a job, something very normal, very average, and then you talk to them, and outside of their work, as part of their hobbies, they're doing all this stuff that's really benefiting, the community. There's people that have started up sort of grassroots sort of clubs that are helping sort of, unemployed youth. There's people that are doing so much charity work around here, and it's a place that I've never seen before, to be honest.
It's bonkers, but I think Hackney, though, is very closely related with being rebellious, with being a kind of cool place to live. Got Shoreditch. Tell us, what are the cool stuff you're doing over there in Hackney as well, Rehana?
I think for us, we're on a slightly different direction of travel now, Joe, in the sense that you'll all remember we had the cyber attack in 2020, and, we had to move all of our infrastructure into cloud. And at the same time, we had to support all of our services to get back to their systems, make sure that our residents are supported, whose data was probably impacted. And just strengthening that whole cybersecurity posture, making sure that we had the right skills within the organization. I think right now, the exciting thing that's going on within Hackney is our new target operating model, which affects the whole organization. So we're not looking at this from a single view. We're not looking at it. We're looking at it like probably from a 10-dimensional view. We're looking at from spans and layers. We're looking at the breadth of things that we do. We want to be working more collaboratively with our partners, with the community. We want to create a self-sustaining ecosystem. And frankly, we are not thinking about what we need to do just today. We're thinking about what Hackney looks like in the next 10 years and what we are going to do for the next generation of Hackney residents. And that's important for us. It's not just about the residents right now. It's what foolproofing we do for the next generation, be it making sure that they have the exposure to those evolving roles that within digital that they need to be exposed to right now. I mean, local government, we don't have AI prompters, JDs now, do we? But in 10 years' time, we're definitely going to need all of those things. But for us, it's about not just focusing on the now and just trying to run your BAU or your service as usual. We are genuinely reflecting and making sure that we have our foundations right. And we are very brave in some of the things that we are doing. So, for example, I think I would say Hackney, and I know it's going to sound very biased and you've got ethics that you're going to be talking about, so I guess I shouldn't say that, but I am going to. I think the data and insight team in Hackney is probably one of the strongest link for us. The fact about how they use the data cloud platform, about how brave we are about bringing dashboards together, and how they sit at the heart of driving that transformation work is just amazing. And I think those are the kind of really great stories that we should be talking about, regardless of the challenges. So I think there's a lot of excitement, there's a lot of change, which means it'll come with its own set of problems. Of things moving around with people and things like that. But it is an exciting time, because I think every time we go through a massive challenge, I look at it as an amazing opportunity for us to learn. There's nothing bad that can come out of it. You either do it badly, but you learn from it, or you do it really well, and it's another feather on your cap. So you don't lose out, do you? So I love embarking on all of that.
I completely agree with both of you. The phrase digital transformation, I admit, is one I hate. Transformation enabled by digital needs is what we're trying to drive to. So how do you influence your leaders to kind of accept that challenge, that it's not just the DD&T team doing this? Like you said, how do you get the people to change? What do you do to get them involved so that we can all do it as well?
Just building on from what Rehana was just saying there and linking that to your question, we're really lucky in Luton. We've got a very clear Luton 2040 vision, and that's not a council vision. It's a Luton-wide vision, and we've got core anchor institutes, the University of Bedfordshire, our partners, big organisations, the airport within Luton, who have all signed up to a charter to help deliver that. So when we're talking about transformation, there's kind of two buckets. There's transforming as a council to enable us to deliver that, and that vision is very ambitious. The ambition is that there is no one living in poverty in Luton by 2040.
That is huge. That is quite a thing to say.
Absolutely. And, you can't do that by being a BAU sort of authority. You have to be stretching your boundaries. You have to be challenging yourself. You have to be thinking outside the box, and you have to be working as a system with Luton. So that transformation really is about how we as a council need to transform to work with our residents, work with our partners in order to transform Luton. As a place. And as Rehana was saying, the people that are going to be those adults coming in in 2040 are the children of now. So, we do a lot of work with the University of Bedfordshire, and they've got this amazing initiative which is called the AI Club. If you've not heard of it, Google it. It's absolutely amazing. But, they're working with local businesses across the Bedfordshire region to embed AI right from the beginning into kind of operating models and all of that kind of stuff, but also giving individuals skills. So really, really good story that I heard from them was, a local landscape gardener who's absolutely amazing at doing brilliant, beautiful landscapes. A single man kind of sole trader business. What his skill is in doing invoices and doing his marketing. So actually what they did was trained him up to show him how AI could do that stuff. They got him to do that, and his business grew so much that he could spend more time doing more landscapes and more gardens. His business grew, and he took on a local apprentice. Now that's one person, but if you multiply that out, the impact that has. So for us as a council, coming back to that is actually to transform. The technology comes back to being that enabler, and how, as Rehana said, how is it that we're using the data to inform where it is that we put our resources, inform kind of those collaborations that we have, but also making sure that the technology enables us to do those collaborations as well. But because we've got this system-wide vision, it makes it a lot easier, I think, to talk to the organisation and with the senior leaders kind of to show actually we're all working towards this very clear vision, and the technology here is a lever. But if we do this and the rest of the organisation doesn't do this in terms of adopting it, the culture, the change, the behaviours, the mindset, then how are we going to achieve this really ambitious vision that we've got?
I love that. An AI gardener, absolutely fantastic. And that's a real example.
Yeah, those anecdotes. Those anecdotes are just so powerful, and I think this is the reason I want to do this podcast, is those anecdotes are, this is what we do in local government technology, but look at the impact we just had on a citizen. And I think Rehana Ramesh has got a lot, either from Brent or from Hackney, where you're doing that as well. Over to you,
No,
Rehana.
100%. I think it's very similar to what Atika said. It's about creating that ecosystem and that circular economy where what we're doing actually has a positive impact on the community. I know I sound a bit dramatic when I say this, but I genuinely believe it, that it is such a privilege to work in local government. it is such a privilege to make a difference in a person's life, no matter how small, how big. What a privilege to do that, right? Even if you just made in your whole career a difference to one family, to one life. As Atika said, get them out of poverty, give them better job opportunities, give them a better quality of life. What an amazing feat. Similarly, I just think, again, going back, I think, Darren, to your question about, how are we working with the services? And I'll be honest with you, ICT, digital, it's actually a dry subject, right? For most of the people, you can't talk to them about cyber and
we're trying to change that, Rehana. That's why you're here.
I agree. I am with you, but it's a very dry subject, and I think that's where our responsibility as leaders come in. It's the narrative, the stories, and bringing it to life, and the real stuff that we bring to you surface it up. For me, I think what I'm doing in Hackney right now is working with the service area. That's where 80% of my time actually goes in, is working with the service areas, asking them what their challenges are, but getting them to tell us what the solution is. We should be the last people on the table to say, now that you've decided what you want to do as a service delivery and how you want to do it, now we'll work with you to bring that to life. Like, we will get you a system, we'll embed it, we'll support you. And I think I think stakeholder, I wouldn't call it, because again, that's a dry word for me. I think it's just genuinely working in partnership and understanding who is in which lane, and then you just come together like a roundabout, but then you also go back to your lanes after that. So for me, it's just making sure that we set that and have a joint up vision. It's like, why are we doing what we do, and being very clear. And every time I speak about the digital strategy, I keep reminding the organization, it's not about technology. Technology is a small part around it. It is about empowering our residents, empowering our workforce. It is about thinking differently. For me, transformation is here in your mind. It's not an agile way of doing. You need to have agility in your mind. You need to have that flexibility in, how you reflect, how you think, how you make decisions. It's being able to adapt. I think that's what digital transformation is about. Tech is the last piece of the jigsaw that comes into the play. And that keeps changing. It is what it is. It's us who needs to evolve, not the technology as such. So I think that's the way that I'm doing it right now. It's like I'm just genuinely lifted my whole service, and I'm just putting them right in middle of the organization and saying that here we are, like the sun in the solar system, and we'll support all of you to do the right thing. But our support is more than just technology. Our support is to facilitate your thinking. Our support is to guide you what the right way to do a service delivery is. It's all of that. And I'm hoping that eventually we'll get to that point where it becomes very natural for us to collaborate.
I feel a bit bold in saying this, but I don't think this panel looks like a typical panel that people would see as IT leaders. We have two absolutely amazing women on the panel. So, ladies, how did you get that? How did you get to the top of your tree? And what kind of leadership do you think we need in IT, digital and data in local government at the moment in time? Atika, let's start with you.
So as I said, I got here through many, many years in local government, but not from a techie background. And I think I've learned that that's my strength. So with this role, being able to have enough knowledge from a technical perspective, but also having strong technical people in your team that you can trust is invaluable. But at the leadership level, having that strategic mindset, being able to set the vision, being able to translate the needs of the organisation and the residents into what it is that we're delivering, kind of challenging the status quo. For us at Luton, it really is about a lot of that, because we were insourced just sort of a couple of months before I started in Luton. After many decades of outsourcing, we were used to, and as an organisation, we're going through a huge period of transition. So actually, all those conversations where it's like, oh, we can't do that for this reason, we can't do that for this reason. And as I said at the beginning, if you tell me I can't do something, I will do it. So I think that's pretty much kind of helped.
So being bloody-minded.
Being bloody-minded, but being authentic, being genuine as to why you're doing it. Thank you. So I think those are the things that are sort of very dear to me in terms of being sort of how I, my leadership style, I guess, is that authenticity, is that challenge, is, kind of building those relationships with people. And it is about kind of having a vision and being able to drive that forward.
You're always very kind as well.
Thank you. I try.
even when you're telling me off.
That does happen a few times, doesn't it, Joe?
You've done
Rehana,
something to upset someone, Joe? No.
Never.
Never.
Rehana, jump in
Rehana.
and defend me.
I think going back to your question, Joe, I think Atika really summarized it and covered it quite well. I think the reason why I'm in local government is for that public service. I think for people who know me very well, they know that I come from a very strong army background. I was born and brought up in an army base. I went to an army school. So, I've grown up with that sense of civic duty. My parents still talk to me and it's like, oh, the elections are coming in the UK. Are you working on the elections? And I'm like, I am. Different reason because it actually pays me. But the point
I love the
that-
elections.
I know. But
I love
it's
election
just that
night.
You
I'll
feel
come to that
like
later.
you're part of a democratic process. You're really
History.
helping society and you're shaping society. So I think for me, where I got to is having that really clear sense of that civic duty. And I think the other things are that leadership stuff, making sure that you're having a vision, you're being able to articulate that vision. I love to talk. I love people. I like listening to stories. I like asking questions. I'm constantly curious. I think those kinds of things really helped me. It didn't feel like I've spent 26 years in local government. It just feels like it's just been an amazing journey for me. 26 years ago, I moved to this country. I started in Brent. And it just feels like I've gone through the whole primary, secondary and done my PhD and then I've gone to Hackney. So I've just enjoyed that process. And I think it's really important to remember that you enjoy what you're doing and then you'll do a really good job of what you're doing. I think the other thing is just meeting people, is making sure that you're surrounding yourselves with a trusted group of people who grow you, who can share their knowledge with you. And I have to say, it hasn't just been women. Like, Atika inspires me with what Atika is doing in Luton. Nadra inspires me with what Nadra is doing in Socketer. But I've actually got a lot of male allies who have really stood me up and have shared their knowledge and have trusted and they've put their faith in me. Fabio is one of them. It's like, I knew nothing about cyber, but that constant talking to him and him advising me and saying what works and what doesn't work and taking the time to listen to my concerns was a huge thing for me. And that's what gives me that growth. And being in local government, that's what I enjoy. It's like us checking on Darren or Darren checking what we're doing and having that kind of collaboration. And in some ways knowing that, oh, we're all suffering. Okay, feels good. I know it sounds bad, but it feels good that we're all suffering. So
the stories are the same wherever we are, and it's good to
Exactly.
know.
It's exactly, but I think, Darren, it brings all of us closer. I can't think of another sector that does that. You speak to the NHS, you speak to the health sector, and you can see so many silos. And I'm sure we experience that too. I'm not going to say we don't have it, but I think at some level it brings all of us together as well as a sector. And that's something, again, that I enjoy. And I think those are the things that got to me, that made me get where I got to, kind of a thing.
Rehana, I want to come on something that you said, which was that male allyship. And I recognise that I'm outnumbered here. But I also recognise I'm a white middle-aged man in an industry, not just local government, but across the whole industry. Women aren't represented. What can I do to ensure that all voices are heard, so that the you of 20 years ago have a better route into our industry, can have make a real difference with the different viewpoints that you can bring with your life experience? What can I do?
I think for me, it's breaking the myth, Darren. What you could do as an individual is ensure that you are creating an environment when people can actually come and have honest conversation to say, if I do want to get into ICT, what is involved? Can I shadow? Can I learn? Because there's a myth about working in IT. And I've been there. I've experienced it. I remember like 18 years ago when the head of ICT at that point tapped on my shoulder and said, you've got a good idea. You've got good ideas. You've got a good knack for technology stuff. Why don't you come into IT? And I said, but I don't drink. And you might think, why would I have said that? And I said, yeah, because I know ICT on a Friday at 2:00 go down to the pubs. I don't drink, so
Yeah.
I'm not going to fit into that culture. But that's a myth that, you would have, working in ICT is about infrastructure or walking around with laptops and wires and fixing HDMI cables. There are so many roles within ICT. You bring in so much knowledge and talent and experience, and you actually need those different voices. And I think as women, we tend to think if it's ICT, you're going to be called at 10 o'clock in the night. Actually, no one likes to call anyone for that matter after 5 o'clock. So it's like breaking those kinds of myths and not assuming that people actually know it's not true, because genuinely people think those things are true. So for me, when I talk to my teams and when I say, no, you should come forward, like I have the best woman who is, honestly, she's rocking it in the cyber world in Hackney. And I'm just so proud to show her off. She's in a team of 12 men and she's just acing this. She's just slaying it out there. But for me, it's about supporting her and encouraging her, understand that she has a family, understand that she has to do school runs. And it's about how I can put in some measures that support her with her day-to-day life, but also encourages her to have a dream and to have a vision and to have that thing about I am going to achieve great things, and celebrating that enthusiasm and that inspiration. So I think that's what you could do. And another thing is, it's not about women or men, Darren. I think it's just about breaking the myth that you don't need to be like super talented and great in mathematics to be a coder. I remember in my previous role, when I set up a center of excellence team, I didn't bring in RPA developers. I didn't bring in robotic developers. We actually trained frontline staff to get into robotic development. They were so scared to do it. I said, try it 6 months and let's see if it works or it doesn't. The reason being, those kinds of things can be taught, but I can't get a developer to think like how the residents think. Only frontline staff can do that because they're speaking to them day in and day out. So I repurposed some of those roles and bought frontline team, and they are the RPA team that right now is doing it. These days, technology is so advanced, you don't need to code from scratch. Everything is AI. You can even build case management systems in less than 2 weeks with the help of AI. So I think those are some of the things you could do.
I think Atika's just picked up a few ideas there as well.
Absolutely. But I think, just carrying on from the last point, as you said, there's such a variety of roles, in IT and DDAT kind of services that you don't like. If you are technical, brilliant, then there's loads of opportunity. But even if you're not, and that's something we did actually when we went to one of the schools at one of the careers events and talk about different careers. Actually, you've got things like user researchers, you've got people that do content design, you've got business partners. That's more about kind of relationships. You don't have to be technical at all to do some of those roles within these service areas. So as Rehana said, some of those myths and the children that we were speaking to were just like, they had no idea that these kind of jobs even existed. And coming back to your original question, Darren, I think, someone once said to me that, we have to run twice as hard to get just as far. And there probably is an element of truth in that. And, I remember when I first joined kind of an IT team, and I sort of landed, I had no intention of being sort of in IT. I sort of landed through various restructures and kind of opportunities and things that came up. Quite often, I was the only woman in the room. And I remember this occasion where, we're all having a conversation about something. It was a problem that we're trying to solve. And I think 3 times I got spoken over by the rest of the men in the room. And then one of them actually in the end realised and sort of stood up and went, hold on a second, we've just spoken over Atika 3 times and I think she's got the answer to what we've been discussing for the last half an hour, so maybe we should listen to her.
Congratulations to him.
Yeah. And that's happened twice. So in a meeting before that, another woman did that, which was really, but I think, just having some of that, you asked what you could do personally, is kind of having some of that awareness, because it's done subconsciously, it's not done kind of intentionally, but having some of that alertness or kind of being more aware of that. And I think similarly, secondly, what I've seen in others in my team, so I've got a management team of 5 people, 2 men, 3 women, and what I've seen with one of them was that they were so used to years and years and years of just being kind of not listened to, not being taken seriously by the men that she was working with, that it just become, what's the point, I'm never going to be listened to. So I think there's something about recognizing, seeing the potential, giving people a chance, even if they're not quite there, sort of to see, what is it actually under the surface, and seeing if we can bring that out.
I agree with you. I think one of the things often seen is IT is one thing. If we walk into a meeting room and it's broken, we're the ones expected to fix it. But like you said, there are so many different careers, so many different ways. Some of them even not technical. If we look at business analysis, understanding how, this goes back to the transformation point about, what are their processes that we can enable That sits within us as digital leaders, as digital enablers. And you're absolutely right. It's not just one thing. There are so many careers that we can open up for people and find the different skills. And sometimes they're not even technical. Thank you for sharing that with me. So the other question then, who's inspired you over your career to help you take those next steps?
So I think there's been a number of people that have inspired me, not just one. But what I'll start with is I think it's a funny story in a way, because when I started my career in local government, I was a housing benefits officer, and I had a really good line manager who was a woman and was brilliant and was kind of very supportive. But we had a really good benefits manager as well, who was always just challenging the status quo, thinking differently, wanting to get things done, and was absolutely brilliant. I stayed at Croydon for a very long time, about sort of 15, 16 years, and he had left before that. Lost touch with him, came to Luton, and guess what? He's now my boss again and the chief exec at Luton. And it's absolutely brilliant because he still continues to inspire me. And what I think is wonderful, I said as part of my leadership style is that authenticity. What I said to him is that I still see the same mark that I saw 20 years ago as a benefits manager is the same mark that is the chief exec. That progression hasn't changed. You're still that authentic person. So that really does inspire me. But I've also had some really wonderful women sort of leaders that have helped. So, one of my old managers when I was at Lewisham, absolutely brilliant and incredibly supportive. And actually, it's probably the reason why I applied for a director post, because for years she's been, before I got this role, she's been like, you should be a director, Atika, you should be, and kind of sort of pushing me and encouraging me to do more. So, having those people around you that you can see role modeling the values that also align with your own, and being able to kind of deliver and progress really helps.
And push you a little bit. I like the fact that other women are kind of pushing you to be successful and flourish. I think you've had the same, haven't you, Lady Ramesh, in terms of people pushing you, and you pushing other women as well?
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. I think like Atika, I think I've got tons of people who have inspired me throughout my career, and they're at all levels. I'm going to start off with my first interaction about somebody being in a leadership role was my director in Brent. I was this young 23-year-old who had just moved to the country. I was a junior customer service officer, and I remember being introduced to this director, and she had a vision for the department, and the way she spoke, the passion that she had for doing the right thing, that just stayed with me for life. And I was just one of those young people, I looked up to her, and I said that to my colleague. I said, I want to be her one day. And they cracked a very bad joke, and they said, she's English, she's a white person, and you're not. I was like, bad joke. But she really inspired me to be in that kind of leadership role. And another person I have to call out who's inspired me is my mom. You guys have to meet my mother. My mom worked in the army at a time where not many women were in the army. And for her to come back, and it's like, you learn things from people where they don't actually teach you. You just learn by observing them. The kind of grit, the kind of, tenacity that she had towards life and towards wanting to support her husband, her family, and being very clear about what she wanted in her life. Those kinds of things, I think, that really stayed with me. And I think she's a great inspiration for resilience for me. She's a tough cookie. She gives me a hard time still. I've come off Instagram because she's posting more pictures than I am. So, she's like with the time, she's constantly, wanting to do new things. So I think she's inspired me. I think tons of people, lots of people in my team who come and so I chair the Disability Staff Network in Hackney. And I just look at the challenges these people, some of our workforce has. And in spite of it, they come with the biggest smile. They come up with the best ideas, and they're constantly thinking of people around them. I think things like that really, really inspire me as well. Like I said, I'm a sucker for stories. I'll talk to people on trains. People think I'm crazy, but I just like listening. And I'm in awe of what life and world has to offer. So I think that comes in all shapes and forms for me. So tons of people, I say. My team currently inspires me to be the best version that I am. My chief exec in Hackney is a great inspiration. She's one of those empathetic leaders. And I keep asking her, how is it that nobody's upsetting you? Like, everybody upsets me all the time. But she just doesn't take things personally. She just still has that biggest smile, and she's just forward-looking and forward-thinking kind of an individual. And I think she's been a great inspiration as well.
Excellent. Shall we move on to the next bit? Future. Let's think about the future in terms of what's about to happen. We've talked about AI quite a lot. And, that is, one of the things that I think is, our staff are fearful. AI is going to take my job. Will AI take my job? Atika, tell me.
No.
Okay, why not?
So it's, I think the future and kind of technology, whether it's AI, whether it's any other piece of technology, if you've got the capability to adapt and to grow and to learn, then I don't think you need to worry. Is kind of, that's just my personal opinion. Roles will change. So it's not about, I think, AI taking the job, but it might change the nature of your job. And that's what you've got to be open to and be adaptable to. And I think generally in terms of kind of, where we are in terms of the councils and sort of future, obviously LGR is happening all over the place. I think Rehana are both quite lucky in that we're both quite unaffected by that. And that's quite an advantageous position in some ways. In other ways, I think actually LGR is a good opportunity to really rethink. We don't often get a chance to almost start from a blank sheet of paper. And it's not, I know it's not, and it's hugely complicated. But really, I always say this, if we were creating a new council now, would we design it? Would we have the same services that we do currently? Probably not. And I very recently read a book by a great chap called Jens, who I met at a conference a couple of months ago, called A Living Council. Yes, it is. Absolutely,
we have him on next week.
Future guest, Jens Gemmer.
Absolutely brilliant. I will definitely be tuning in for that. But I'm in love with his book. I read it. It's not a very easy read. Okay. He talks not with him. I am married. So with the book. I read it, and he talks about a living council, a council that breeds, that evolves, that grows with its residents, and so much of that book resonated with me that I ended up, I had a little highlighter and little post-its to kind of mark, and I ended up pretty much highlighting and post-itting the whole book. I was just like, might as well have just
I have to read it. You have to share it, Atika.
So, definitely, I will definitely be tuning in for that podcast. I think it's about evolving and changing.
Yeah, I kind of echo Atika's views. I've always believed that you can never guarantee employment, but you can guarantee you're employable. And this whole AI conversation is very similar. I don't think anyone's going to lose their job because we are automating processes or we're bringing in RPA or AI tools. I think you will be in risk of losing your job if you don't know how to use those tools in your day-to-day role. I think that's the bigger question to ask. It's like you will be left behind if you don't know how to use them. And I think that's what we should be focusing on, is upskilling and empowering not just our workforce, but also residents. And it's like we're just talking about AI policies at work, and we're going to scrutiny committee in another couple of weeks around it. And I'm talking about, in that paper, what are we doing with residents to help them that when they engage with us, we're going to be using solutions and tools which has got AI built in. It's built in. So what could you as a resident do differently so that works for you too? It could be self-service tools. It could be when they call us and they're using our telephony line and there's an AI tool within the telephony line. So how can you make the best use of what's being offered to you? And how could you give us really good data? Because AI is dependent on data. So I just think we need to change the narrative around. It's not about, what's going to happen? It is here. Let's make the best of it. So what could you do? What can I do? And let's come together to do it right. So I think that's the conversation we need to have.
I think you're both right. But I think it's on us to make sure that those leaders in our organisations know that AI isn't the only answer. It may not even be the right answer. It's for us to show them what the art of the possible is, but also to understand what their needs are, where their frustrations are, that these tools could be the answer. But if we stick AI on top of everything, that may just make more complexity. And particularly at a time when we're all challenged around costs in local government, may be very expensive, because the assumption is, unfortunately, it's free. Because I can go on to ChatGPT and get my answer. It's not. It's a maturing technology, so it's an expensive technology right now. So we need to be guiding them for the right places to use it. And I know I found examples where I've had to temper people. I'm sure you have as well in your organisations.
Yeah. And also, Darren, another thing, yes, you can have an AI ChatGPT or a Gemini, but you need to ask it the right question for it to give you the right answer. And do our workforce know to ask the right question? I'll debate that.
Exactly that. These tools aren't as intuitive. They have to learn from us. And the other thing I've found is we need to be careful with our data as it goes into AI, because
yes.
if it's the free versions or the semi-free versions, that data becomes part of the pool that anyone can reference. We need to be guardians of that data, and as well as the guardians of the tools.
Yeah, I think there's a legal context and the whole ICO context to all of that as well, isn't it, from a data perspective? And that's an evolving arena as well.
Very much.
I don't think nationally, I don't think as an not just as an organization, I think just as a country, it's a thing that's evolving. There's so much more learning and there's so much more fine tuning of the governance that needs to happen around it.
Yeah.
And the ethics of its use. And ethics is something we touched on earlier.
I know.
And in terms of ethics of using your AI to write your supporting statement or application into local government is my particular bug that I have at the moment. Bugbear, that's it, that as well. Because you can use it to help you write it, but you cannot use it to write it for you. And explaining that to people, use it as an assistant. I use it all the time. My grammar's awful. I get the words wrong, as I have just proven. And so using it to help me and rewrite it, no issue. But to actually write it for me, then I'm literally saying, you can get rid of me, you can make me redundant. AI can do my job for me. And it's getting that understanding across to folks. Anyway, we're near the end of our broadcast, and Mr. Mann would like to humanise the DDAT.
I think it's important to make sure that CIOs are people too. So, quick fire round. There are no prizes, so you're not going to win anything.
Oh.
So, going to take turns. Okay, couple of questions. Are you ready? Fingers on buzzers.
Yeah.
Rehana, tea or coffee?
Tea.
Correct answer. Atika, what was the last board game you played?
I can't remember its name.
Which one was it? Describe it.
Describe it.
It's a board with cards, playing cards and little coins.
Oh.
Okay. Did you like it?
One.
Or
I
did you
did,
flip?
yeah.
Did you flip the table? Did you win?
I won, that's why I liked it.
That's why the table didn't get
Well
flipped.
done, you.
Rehana, ever walked out of a movie, and if so, what was it?
Oh, never. I'm a cheapo that way. I've paid for the ticket and bought the popcorn, so I will sit and I'll watch the whole movie.
Fair enough. Atika, what time did you send your first email this morning?
6:30.
Correct answer. Rehana, on election night, are you in the count or in bed?
Camp. I'm out there.
Not
Not in bed.
Right. Last question to both of you. Atika, what was the best piece of advice you ever got?
Always stay true to yourself.
Oh, cool. Rehana?
Best piece of advice, be kind to yourself and then you'll automatically be kind to the people around you.
Thank you very much for playing CIOs Are People Too.
I love it.
We've come to the end of our broadcast. Thank you so much for our amazing guests. We were so blessed with the amazing DDAT for Luton, Atika Mohammed. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Enjoyed it.
Excellent. And
Good.
the DDAT for Hackney, Rehana Ramesh.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Join us again, Darren Mann and I, for Have You Raised a Ticket?
Sequence! Sorry, just remember the board game. It's called Sequence.
Keep that in! That was all right. That brings us to the end of today's episode of Have You Raised a Ticket. Huge thank you to our amazing guests, Rehana Ramesh and Atika Mohammed. Not only for joining us in our very first podcast and supporting us in this, but also lifting the lid on what real leadership looks like in local government. If you found today's conversation useful, and hopefully you did, please hit the subscribe button, follow us, leave a review, share this episode with somebody who you think might find it useful, and equally, send us an email and or drop us a note on LinkedIn and ask us to raise a question for you with our next guests, who are Mr. Mann.
Well, over the coming months, we've got a fantastic series of guests, and we're looking for more. So if you're listening to this, directors out there, drop us an email. We want to talk to you. We've got Jens Gemmel and Adira Hussain coming up in the coming months, as well as Sam Collins and Yukita Popat. We want more guests. We want to hear your views. that's the point of this, because we want to hear what the reality is. So please drop into LinkedIn. You'll be able to find us there as Have You Raised a Ticket, or even on X. Drop us an email. You'll find all the links at the bottom of the page. Joe, it sounds like we know what we're doing, even after one.
We don't know what we're doing. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much to our fantastic and enormously patient producer, David Clack. Thank you for supporting our first episode, and we'll see you here next time on Have You Raised a Ticket?
Take care, all.